everyone, thanks for coming on to the webinar and joining me. If you don't know me and we've not actually spoken before, I'm Beth Laws. So I work for Somerford Associates and I'm a technical consultant here. And we're going to be looking at Varonis SaaS today. So just to take a quick look at what we're going to talk through today. Firstly, we're going to go through a brief overview of what we do at Somerford Associates and who we are, just because some of you might not be familiar with us. We've got a brief overview of the Varonis data security platform as a whole and what it does. I'm going to touch on what actually is Varonis SaaS and why it's important to be protecting and monitoring your organization's data. And then after that, I'm going to go through some of the use cases as well, just to talk about how organizations can use Varonis SaaS. And before we come to the end, I'm going to touch on the data risk assessments we've got available. Because if you're interested in Varonis, you might be interested in seeing how it can help your organization. So who are Somerford Associates? So we're a leading provider of technology solutions and services, and we're also a certified platinum partner with Varonis. We're one of the go-to partners for expertise across some of the UK's largest companies. So that's across a range of different industries, and it's even for government agencies as well. So as consultants, we're very customer focused, and we try to understand both the business and information management challenges faced by organisations today. Our professional services team is comprehensively trained in every one of the solutions we offer, and they all work closely with all of our customers to try and meet their specific requirements. We also have an in-house support desk for all of our customers as well. And it's worth mentioning as well that over 95% of all cases which come through on our support desk, they are usually resolved in-house without the need to escalate these to our vendors. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Varonis, Varonis has helped many customers to monitor, protect, and manage their data. It adopts the methodology of detect, prevent, and sustain to help customers succeed with their data journey. The Varonis data security platform, it's used to detect insider threats, account activity, and user behaviors. It also looks to prevent any disasters by ensuring sensitive and stale data is locked down appropriately. It helps to easily assist with remediation of over-accessible folders and automatic application of policies. Varonis then can help to sustain the secure state of your environment with the possibility of setting up automatic responses to alerts, migrating or quarantining any stale or sensitive data, and you can even allow data owners to regularly review, approve, or deny access to their own data. So just to talk about what Varonis can do as a whole, so what it's here to do is it looks at all of the data stored in your enterprise data stores. So this could be your on-prem file shares, it could be Microsoft 365 and SharePoint data, this can be NAS devices it can work with, and now it can even look at cloud data, so cloud repositories and cloud application services, because they also have the Data Advantage Cloud offering as well. So it takes a look at all of this data, and the majority of what's stored in here is unstructured data. So by this I mean your documents, your spreadsheets, and your files, all the sort of files that we don't actually know a lot about, and we don't know what's in them, and we don't often know who's accessing them, and what sort of information is even stored in there. So as well as looking at all this, it looks at the infrastructure that helps to access all that information in the data store. So it's taking information from Active Directory or Azure AD, for example, and it's taking a note of all those users and security groups in your environment. So Varonis, it's able to tie all this information together. So more specifically, we've got that information about the users and groups and their permissions pulled together to understand who has access to exactly what data. So to add to this, it can even help to easily remediate any overexposed data. So this can really help organisations when it comes to improving their visibility and awareness of who has access to what, and really help to reduce that overall blast radius. It can also look at the content of your files. So this means it's easy to, it can help to determine whether files are sensitive or not, and then identify what type of sensitive data exists within your file shares. And then when you combine that with Varonis being able to monitor user behavior as well as identifying which of that data is sensitive and monitor all that access activity, this is really going to help businesses to ensure their compliance with things such as GDPR. It can also issue alerts on any suspicious behavior which is detected, in addition to the built-in alert models it has. So Varonis employs user behavior analytics, so we can start to understand what is normal behavior for users and service accounts, and then alert on any behavior which is then deemed as unusual. And since Varonis now offers their Edge module too, so this means it can look at perimeter telemetry, so it can monitor DNS servers and web proxies and VPN access. So all of this is really going to help businesses with the threat detection and response times. Varonis believes that security starts with the data, and we should be protecting and locking it down best we can. So why do we need to think about monitoring behavior that goes on within our business, and what actually are the threats? One of the biggest threats posed to our data is obviously the increasing the amount of successful cyber attacks. You know, and it's not really uncommon nowadays to hear about huge companies being hit by things such as ransomware attacks. So cyber attacks are something that no business is immune to, and it can happen to everyone. And you know, all that data we hold is one of our most valuable assets now for businesses. So if a business is hit with a cyber attack, without the right tools in place, it could be months before the business is even aware that an intruder gained entry and they've actually detected that. And again, without the appropriate tools in place, it's also going to be very difficult to understand which of the data is sensitive and whether that intruder has been able to access this and understand the path that an intruder has taken once they've got into your environment, and try to understand whether they've actually compromised any of your data. So Varonis SaaS, it's the new version of the data security platform that Varonis have released. So this came out at the beginning of this year, so the beginning of 2023 for the UK. So for those of you that are familiar with the Varonis 8.6 data security platform, this is essentially the SaaS hosted version of the already very popular Varonis 8.6. So instead of Varonis being hosted in the customer's environment, Varonis now offers this SaaS hosted solution, and it's very similar to the 8.6 solution. So the features and functionality of Varonis SaaS are very similar to Varonis 8.6. So we've got all of that data discovery and data classification, and we've got the data access activity monitoring, and we've got all those threat models included, and user behavior analytic threat models as well, and the alerting in here as well. So it's all almost in there, and it's done through a single user interface now. So everything is in the same place. And I'm going to be going through these use cases a bit more in a minute or so, when we come to those slides. But just to be clear, if you are familiar with the Varonis 8.6, not all of the features you see in this version are 100% there in Varonis SaaS yet. But the Varonis development team, they are working on these very quickly, and they're frequently releasing updates as well, to try and get those features to you guys as quick as you can. So there are a few other benefits as well to Varonis SaaS. So there's less infrastructure needed now from customers to get this running. So customers don't have to have a SQL license for a SQL server. There's less servers needed from the customers to host Varonis, because obviously it's hosted in SaaS now. So generally it does mean there's sort of less running costs associated with Varonis now. And because it's SaaS and it's connected to the Varonis cloud, it also means that customers will get continuous updates on the threat models that Varonis uses, and also things like their classification policies and dictionaries. So those are the things Varonis is using to detect sensitive data. And it does also mean there's no admin around doing that as well. So there's no checking for those updates and downloading them and installing them now. And then on top of that, it does mean you're also going to feel reassured that you know your Varonis is up to date. And also as well, because you are connected to the Varonis cloud, it does mean you're going to get access to the Varonis incident response team as well. So this means basically if there's an alarming alert that's triggered, Varonis is going to be able to notify you of that to make sure that you're aware. So the Varonis team of cybersecurity experts, they're going to have eyes on your alerts all the time, because you know you're connected to the cloud. So if they're going to spot anything that they really think, you know, hey, this looks really unusual, you really need to know about this, they're going to get in contact with you. So it's almost like another level of security you get in there. Varonis SaaS can help to prepare you for the worst by helping you to understand where your sensitive data lives. It's going to help you to make sure only the right people have access to that data and that it's locked down appropriately, and then alert on any suspicious activity, you know, or unusual behaviours. And ultimately, all of this is going to be helping to minimise the risk if someone malicious were to gain access to your systems, and be helping to minimise the damage a potential cyber attack could cause. So Varonis SaaS is available in 3 different packages. We've got Varonis SaaS for working with on-prem Windows and NAS devices, and I believe there is optional extras available for this too. So if you wanted to be watching activity in Active Directory or perimeter telemetry, so by that I mean your VPN activity and your web proxies and DNS servers. You can see in the middle here, we've got Varonis SaaS for Microsoft 365 as a package. So this is obviously working with Teams and SharePoint, Azure AD, and I think there's an optional extra to add on for it to work with Exchange Online as well, if you wanted that. And then we've got the hybrid package on the right. So this covers everything I've just mentioned with the Windows and NAS and the Microsoft 365 package together. So all the features that come with these packages are the same as standard. So they've really simplified the packages available now. So it's really clear to customers. You know, it's really clear for you guys to understand compared to when you think about the packages that are offered for Varonis 8.6. So we're going to take a look at some of the ways you can use Varonis SaaS now. So one of the first things Varonis does is it maps and classifies your data, and it's able to tell you whether it's sensitive or not. And not just that as well, it can actually tell you how the data is sensitive. So it's going to be able to tell you what type of data is held within your file. So that could be GDPR, it could be PCI, patient data, or it'll even tell you whether it's detected something really specific in there, such as like a national insurance number or a driving license number, and all sorts of things. So the Varonis data classification engine, it uses patterns, string matches, regular expressions, it uses proximity sensing, and it uses dictionaries, and all these things are used to identify the files that contain sensitive data. So it comes with many predefined rules, so you can either enable or disable these depending on what your organization is interested in. And it is possible to customize these as well if there's specific things that your business needs to be looking for. So why is it important to be classifying data? Well, once we have an understanding of what data we hold in our environment, and therefore we know what actually is sensitive, and then we also know what needs locking down and what needs to be looked at if there's any unnecessary access that needs to be rectified. So Varonis believes that a least privilege model is best practice when it comes to looking at accessing your data stores. So by that we mean that making sure only the right people have got access to that right data. So not all of what we hold is going to be sensitive. So by classifying it, it's then helping you to understand where your priorities lie and what really needs to be protected. Varonis SaaS comes with a series of dashboards as well. As you can see on the slide here, we've got the SharePoint Online dashboard shown as an example. So you can see there's various bits of information on here for you to see. So you can see included is how much data in SharePoint Online is sensitive. Along the left-hand side, you can see we've got another dashboard for OneDrive. We've got things like compliance dashboard and got the alerts dashboard, where you can see a summary of the alerts which are being triggered and filter on. And then there's a few other different dashboards as well. So the compliance dashboard, this is a good one. This is going to show you things like if you've got any regulated data which is overexposed. So, you know, that could be GDPR data, which is accessible to everybody. Which obviously, if you're familiar with GDPR, that is not how it should be. It should not be accessible by anyone. It should only be accessed by the people who need it. But all of these dashboards are designed to give high-level statistics on your different file shares in your environment. And also from these dashboards, it's very easy to dive into the details of these areas. So you're able to click on the widgets to give you more information, so you can quickly find out things like, you know, exactly which of these files have open access, or exactly who has triggered an alert and whatnot. So as well as the dashboards, which can highlight where global access has been configured and, you know, which of the sensitive data has got global access configured. So by global access, what I mean by that, by the way, is when data is accessible to anyone. So Varonis SaaS, it offers an easy to understand bi-directional view, which allows you to see who has access to which folders and areas of your data. So you're able to see which security groups have access to sensitive folders and files, and you're also able to see their level of permission, as well as understanding how this access was actually granted, how have they got these permissions. So for example, you'd be able to see if these permissions were inherited from a parent directory. Yeah. So ethical walls can be set up using the autonomous remediation features. So these are there to automatically enforce policies customers might need to have in place. Having data stored in the cloud, it often means that collaboration, it's made a lot easier by having, you know, being able to access file shares and folders with people in the organization. And also, you know, sometimes with external people as well, and collaboration links are used to do that in Microsoft 365. But being able to use collaboration links like this, it does mean that there's a lot of risk which comes with that as well. It can often mean that there's sensitive information exposed to people that it shouldn't be exposed to be. And sometimes employees don't, you know, they're using these collaboration links and they don't actually quite realize what type of information they're sharing. But you can use Varonis to enforce any policies you might have to manage collaboration links within your 365 data. So for example, you could set up a rule to ensure that any collaboration links which are created to share data with anybody organization-wide for sensitive data will automatically be removed to prevent any sensitive data potentially getting into the wrong hands. Varonis SaaS helps businesses to improve their threat detection measures. So Varonis are very proud to offer a platform that uses user behavior analytics, and this is particularly useful when it comes to threat models and alerts. So it's designed to provide you with meaningful alerts, and it tries to avoid drawing in an overwhelming amount of alert noise. So by employing user behavior analytics, it means it's monitoring users' behavior. So it's watching things like what are they accessing, you know, where in the world are they logging on from? And this means it's able to build up a profile on users and accounts and get to know what their normal behavior is and what are they normally accessing. So this then means if any behavior is detected which is out of the ordinary, then this will be alerted on. So cyber criminals, they do often have ways to gain access to company infrastructure, which can go undetected by the usual antivirus or anti-malware solutions. And even if customers are using security information event management systems, they are usually monitoring events from systems rather than events from users. So it can often still go unnoticed that an intruder has gained access and is maybe acting in a different way, you know, acting maliciously across the network. So for example, if an intruder was to use the technique of password spraying and then successfully gain entry, it might appear as normal to the IT department monitoring the system activities, but this is exactly a scenario where user behavior analytics would really succeed and be able to notify you of this account access that needs to be investigated. So as well as user behavior analytics, so we refer to this as UBA quite often, Varonis has another level of threat intelligence in its suite. So there are increasingly many ways and tools that attackers use to compromise organizations' accounts and data, and Varonis has many predefined alert models built in to help detect and protect against these. You know, frequent updates are issued to ensure the platform is up to date as well with the latest threat models. So examples of threat models like this would be, there's things to detect encryption of multiple files, if there's any unreasonable geo-hopping. So by that we mean, you know, if an employee was to log on somewhere in the world and then 10 minutes later they decide to log on in America, or it looks like they have, that would be something that would be picked up if it was physically impossible to travel to those from one place to another in 10 minutes. Another example of another threat model would be data exfiltration using DNS tunneling has been detected. And just to remind you as well, with Varonis SaaS, you get that extra level of security as you're connected to the Varonis cloud, so that Varonis' team of cybersecurity experts are going to have eyes on your alerts at all times, and they'll notify you if something looks rather concerning. So the alerts dashboard is really useful as well. It's really easy to dive deeper into the alerts, investigate to find out more information and try follow the trail of the attacker and investigate that activity of what the attacker's potentially been doing, and understand the path they've taken through your environment using the dashboards. And all the alerts, they're packed with a lot more information, so it means you're able to gain a lot more context of what's been happening. So before we come to the end, if you're not currently a Varonis customer, I just want to talk about the free data risk assessment, which we offer for Varonis SaaS. A data risk assessment, it's a free assessment of your own data stores that Varonis and Somerford can provide. Many organizations are not aware of how much of the data is sensitive or where this lives, and you know who's actually accessing this day to day. So a data risk assessment, so we do often refer to these as a DRA. DRAs are essentially where Varonis SaaS will be installed, and it can help you to show specifically where your weaknesses are and make recommendations for minimizing the risk in your environment. The assessment comes with a report, so the report is also completely free, as well as the DRA, and the report is going to highlight things such as where you have excessive open access, you know, in particular where there's sensitive information involved. It'll give you information about if there's any Active Directory vulnerabilities, so if there's things like accounts with passwords that don't expire, or it'll give you information about any stale data in your environment. And all of this is coupled together with statistics, so you can really gauge the severity of the risks in your environment as well. Less infrastructure is required to do a DRA now with Varonis SaaS compared to if you've done one of these with Varonis 8.6, so that's a positive. So there's no need for customers to provide us with a SQL Server license anymore, and there's less servers we need to get Varonis set up for a DRA. So we just need one server in the customer's environment, and that is to allow us to install a collector for the DRA. And all of this means that the process for the DRA has become a lot quicker as well. So as I already mentioned, the assessment is entirely free, and it is quite easy to get set up. And throughout this time as well, you will have access to the Varonis incident response team. So if any real life attack crops up during your risk assessment period, they will work with you to recognise and try and remediate any real attack. So if you are potentially interested in Varonis, it makes sense to take advantage of getting a free data risk assessment. If you do think you're interested, you can head to our website, the Somerford website, or you'll be able to, you can drop us an email if you wanted to. So you can drop us an email at marketing@somerfordassociates.com. So that does bring us to the end of the webinar. Hopefully most of you found this useful and you've got a bit of an understanding of what Varonis SaaS is and some of the ways that businesses can use it. So please feel free to get in touch if you've got any questions about Varonis SaaS, or if you've got any questions about Varonis at all. So you can email us at info@somerfordassociates.com. So thank you everyone for taking the time to listen today. But that's it from me for now. So hopefully we'll hear from some of you soon. Thank you very much.